Hello and welcome along to a short video to introduce the CALC Geography Pathway GIS initiative, where we're going to get the young people, all the young geographers from across Craigavon Area Learning Community involved in a citizen science project related to climate change, where we'll be surveying the trees in the local area. Climate change, of course, is a vital topic for us to teach in our curriculum. The urgency of it requires that we give it prominence in what we're teaching. But there's a challenge for us. How do we communicate the urgency in such a way as we don't lead to some kind of feeling of helplessness with our pupils? Because if you take SDG 13 and have a look at some of the words that it use, every person, cataclysm, underprepared, threatens life, devastating, instability and wars, we're drastically off track, catastrophic consequences. The language here, if we share that with the young people that we teach, is language that could potentially make them feel like there's nothing we can do. This is beyond what we can cope with. So perhaps the solution is, given our pastoral responsibilities to the pupils, is we need to tone this language down. We need to hide them from the impacts of this, because we don't want them to go into some mental health crisis from it. We've got to teach this and deal with it as a safeguarding issue in many ways. And so we have a dilemma, don't we? There is the ethical imperative for us to teach this with the degree of urgency that the situation requires, but also the ethical imperative for us to show a pastoral concern for our pupils. So how do we square that? There is no doubt that there's a rise in eco-anxiety. It's very easy for us, when we're teaching this to our young people, to make them feel disempowered. It's so big. The scale of it is so grand. How do we even begin? Then the eco-warrior can become the eco-warrior. So is there a way for us to express the urgency without leading us into this anxiety? Because it seems often that the more we pull down with the weight of the urgency, the more that tends to lift the levels of anxiety. And I'm going to suggest that there is a way for us to approach this and think about it, and that's through teaching for agency. We can define agency as this: the ability of a person to make choices and to take actions that shape their own lives and their environment. It involves a sense of control, autonomy, and the belief that one's decisions can have an impact on one's circumstances. The things that I can do as an individual can make a difference. Action changes things. And it was taken by this paper, recent paper by Greer and Glacken, in terms of framing climate change education. They talk about three spheres. I think, of course, we would know and understand that there's a certain amount of knowledge that we need to teach them. They need to understand about climate change. That's going to be central to any curriculum that we design. But Greer and Glacken take this out into a wider sphere. This is climate change education for capabilities, enabling young people as agents for change. We start to see this as something that they can respond to and take action about. And their final sphere, I really like this one, they call it expansive climate change education, is positioning education, they say, as integral to society's response to climate change now. This isn't just saying to young people, you're the citizens of the future. They're the citizens of today, and there are things that they can do as citizens right now. We can teach agentically. And with this model in mind, I want us to think a little bit about how we can use GIS then to help to foster this sense of agency. When it comes to GIS, all too often in school curriculums, the connection between us and how GIS is used in the world of work, that's how geography is done in the real world, tends to be not as clear as it could be. Sometimes there's a brick wall. The geography they experience in school doesn't necessarily feel a huge amount like the geography they would experience if they took it beyond. So if we take this wall down and allow our students to see a little bit more, so at the very instant, at least for them to see this stuff that's going on in the world of work, but even more ideally than that we start to use some of these things. They start to dabble with them, even in just some very basic ways, to help them to experience that. So in many ways, what we're doing in our classroom, we're seeing through our interactive whiteboards to the world of work, and we're helping our young people to see that as well. So you can see how that fits into this model here of teaching for capabilities and the potential through the project we're doing of making the young people as integral to society's response to climate change. So I want you to watch this little video. This is a video of some of the ways in which GIS has been used to tackle some of the challenges of the urban heat island effect in Prague.
Many cities all around the world are facing huge challenges, and Prague is no exception. One of the biggest challenges is climate change. We have seen a substantial change in the weather and climate in the last years. The number of heat waves is increasing. It affects negatively the environment. We've got poor health of trees, poor health of grass in the squares or in the parks. Increase of heat has the negative impact to the health of the elderly people. We can see the increased level of heart attacks, for example. The mission of our Institute for Planning and Development is to improve the quality of life of our citizens through intelligent planning. We are using satellite imagery and combine it with data on population density and planning regulation. Combining all these layers, we are finding the spots in the area with lack of green. By combination of these layers, we search the biggest potential for positive effect. We've already implemented the new park around the Wenceslas Square and directly in the Wenceslas Square. When I walk now in Prague, I can see the new green roofs, the newly planted trees, even the new water features. We can see the new grass surfaces in the train tracks and many small and important measures. With GIS, we can see the data before the change and after the change. Then we clearly see the healthier vegetation and drop in the temperatures during the summer. We are very happy that we can contribute to positive changes in the city and that we can see the result of our work directly in the streets. Prague has a long and successful history, and we believe that through our actions we can make Prague a better place to live.
So, if a simple question off the back of that video, how did that story make you feel? What emotions would you associate with watching that? When I did the first training session with the geography teachers from CALC, I passed out mini whiteboards at this point and got them to write down their words. I wonder, can you guess what they had written? Here we go. Positive, curious, excited, urgency, determined, useful, hopeful, informative, inspired, interested, intrigued, hopeful, adapt, always change our behaviour. And I got them to put down little emojis. Is this a smiley face or anything else that describes the emotion that they feel? So it is actually possible for us to show something there to our young people and hopefully get the same reaction from them. Do you reckon they would respond in similar ways? Because if we're going to tackle the urgency, if we show them this agency, perhaps we can bring a degree of hope. So what are we getting the young geographers of Craigavon Area Learning Community to do? Well, we're going to lean in as geographers to the data process of geographical inquiry, all these different stages. Geographers like to ask interesting questions. So we could frame this as a big, powerful question. How do we adapt? Our urban areas are getting warmer and warmer and will continue to do so. What are the things that we can do? And if we're doing a tree survey, what are the big questions they could ask? Where are trees found? What's the relationship between the number of trees and the socioeconomic deprivation within an area? There's a massive social justice issue dimension to this as well. There's a reason why we call the leafy suburbs. So if we frame it like this, we start with this big, powerful question that they could co-design, co-construct, and allow them then to begin to collect some data as they go through. So the data that we'll be collecting will be using Survey 123. This is what kind of thing it's going to look like just on their phones. If they have ever filled in, or if you've ever filled in a form on your phone, it's as simple as that, but it geotags it. You drop your point on it, which allows us then to see this on the map. I've set up this map that will allow us immediately that the data is collected to come and visualize it like this. We're moving from data collection to data presentation instantly in this 3D scene viewer, and the symbols represent the heights of the trees, the circles proportional to the diameter, and each one of those has information that we want to collect, including some of these photographs of the trees themselves. This one takes a wee moment just to download, but we can collect all of this. You could imagine the young people going out into the areas where they live, collecting a data set that actually, as far as I'm aware, doesn't exist at the moment. This is true citizen science, collecting data that is genuinely important and useful. And the question then for us is, you look at what we're moving out through those spheres. It's not just the knowledge about, it's extremely important, but it's taking them into the outer sphere of this, or sorry, the next sphere of the agents for change. They're feeling this sense of agency in it. But we want to take this further for us to get into the final sphere here. What are we going to do with this data at the end? Typically, the data that we collect as geographers in school ends up being used either as a poster on the wall, fine, or as data for an exam, fine. But geographers in the real world actually do things with their data, and that leads us to this sense of action. So how can we give our young people a sense of being part of society's response to this today? Well, if they're collecting data that doesn't exist, they're genuinely providing some information that is useful to people, and we can take them and put them in front of our stakeholders. These are some photographs of a project that we did in 2019 with our shared ed partner, St. Ronan's. We did a survey of pupil perception across the town of Lurgan using Survey 123. We collected that data, and they ended up presenting in front of 19,000 people on the stage in Esri User Conference in San Diego, telling this powerful story. But it didn't stop there. When they came home, they came and presented this. We put the students' voice in the council. And I would love for our output from this to end in somewhere similar, for us to be connecting them to the decision makers in the local area as young people, making their voices heard here and now. So this is a powerful and exciting project. I'm really pleased to have got it launched, and I can't wait to see where this journey takes us. If you were part of the original launch event, you already are very aware of this. If you weren't able to make it and would like to be involved, I hope this video has given you a little bit of a taster. You're very, very welcome to come on board and give your young people a chance to experience education about climate change that addresses the urgency but gives that sense of agency and hope, and gives them a voice right now as citizens of their world right now.